joined by Dr. Aswini Mohapatra, Professor, Center for West Asian Studies in JNU, and Paul Salem, Senior Fellow, ex-president, expert of MEI, ex-president and expert on West Asian conflicts. Thanks so much, gentlemen, for joining us here. Dr. Aswini Mohapatra, I'll just go across to you first. In the latest we have is that we'll of course talk about what is happening next, but I want to understand from you, since the latest update is that Arakchi will be meeting the Russian president, do you think that there will be, what way will Russia support Iran, if at all it does?
See, Russia, whatever way it supports or does, will not do it so openly. Because the major principle, Russia all through was opposed to Iran becoming a nuclear armed state. So it took the same position in the IAEA all through. And currently, Russia, as it is preoccupied with its own problem, you see, in the backyard. So particularly it's in Ukraine. So I don't think Russia will be so openly or overtly involved in the West Asian conflict as such, taking side of Iran against Israel. And as such, Russia never has had any problem with the Israelis for historical reasons. So it's a question of basically confronting the United States of America. So I have a feeling that Russia only will be issuing certain, condemnation and the statement critical about this American role, its action, last night action. Beyond that, beyond the rhetoric, I don't think Russian will be directly involved in any confrontation in West Asia as such.
Mr. Paul Salem, this is expected to spiral out because we understand that Iran will have to do something. But United States, of course, it will be, it's much stronger. It knows the danger that it will entail if at all it strikes back. But what do you really think the Iranian regime would be planning to do next? Will it just continue with the missile strikes in Israel or go on further? Because it continues to warn, it has warned that this is going to have some long-term consequences.
Long-term consequences, yes, but in what way, very difficult to predict at this stage. The consequences may even include certain repercussion within Iran. Let the things settle down, you never know. So, that's a lot of people may be thinking this whole thing, would contribute to the further consolidation of the Islamic regime in Tehran. It is not a war between Israel and Iran as a state. It is basically the kind of conflict between Israel, the state of Jews, vis-a-vis the regime. So we have to be very clear about it. And the consequence is, yes, the regime will be constrained to undertake certain measures so as to reinforce its own legitimacy. The legitimacy lastly rests on its ideological foundation of the post-1979 Iranian regime itself. That's in that anti-meta narrative, you will find the way Israel has been portrayed. America has been portrayed as the great Satan and Israel as the little Satan. And, they have to continuously fight against, the Israelis because, as after all, the Jewish state created a so-called sacred Islamic space. And thereby it provides a theological justification for the continued resistance, even to an extent the jihadis. So that way, it has to do something to project itself before the people.
Right, sir.
See, let me put it this way. It is a serious blow to the ideological apparatus of the post-1979 Iranian regime.
Okay.
It's not only simply a structural issue. Yes, it has delivered a serious blow to the command structure, to the administrative apparatus, but more than that, it has definitely punctured the ideological basis, the foundation of this very regime itself.
Okay, yes.
It's likely to be defeated in the hands of the Jews who have been portrayed as the, spurious and the miniatures. See the anti-narrative right from Ayatollah Khamenei. And how are they prepared to accept this kind of defeat? That basically provides the explanation for the Iranian retaliation, whatever way they have to do it. Otherwise, they risk losing their legitimacy internally.
Right. Dr. Mohapatra, I'll come to you on the question about Khamenei and also Mr. Paul Salem. I'll just go across to you after this breaking. We have this latest update that the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has spoken to the President of Iran. In fact, he has tweeted about it. He has posted on social media, and I quote him here. Spoke with the President of Iran. We discussed in detail about the current situation, expressed deep concerns at the recent escalations, reiterated our call for immediate de-escalation, dialogue and diplomacy as the way forward and for early restoration of regional peace, security and stability. So, Paul Salem, I'll just go across to you as well. All right. Okay, Dr. Mohapatra, I think I'll go across to you once again on this. We have to also understand that, India continues to have, relations with both Iran and Israel. Right now, it is, Iran, we have a lot of ties with Iran as well. I'll just touch upon what is really could be brewing as far as the Iranian regime is concerned, because the next target will be, of course, the decimating the nuclear sites is one thing. But, Israel and Iran have time and again, we've seen that they have been at the loggerheads for the nuclear program. But at the same time, United States has said that, has always, attacked Khamenei in words. This time you feel that the fall of the regime, the theocratic government, is imminent and soon.
It's true. See, to say that there would not be de-escalation, that would be as a kind of exaggeration on my part, a travesty of the truth. As I mentioned, yes, the Iranian side would definitely resort to the retaliatory measures. And to what extent they would go, that remains a number, depends on the number of factors, or say the interplay of factors. But nevertheless, as I mentioned, that this regime will be constrained to undertake that kind of measures to prove its legitimacy, to buttress its ideological identity both within the country and outside. And so, when the escalation is concerned, I see the escalation could be not only in the form of its retaliation, also in the form of the likely attacks from its agents and the proxies in the region against Israel. That's second. And third, it could be the Iranian trying to attack some of these American military bases, about 90 and odd bases, around 40,000+ soldiers deployed there. But then there would be obviously the kind of response of the American side against Iran. Already President Trump has sounded that. So that basically involved the risk of further escalation. On the whole, longer this conflict prolongs, look at its wider ramification within the region and beyond. That basically remains the major source of concern for the Indian side. And how do you de-escalate the situation is quite challenging for the international leadership today. Here, I have a feeling, that's my view, the way I figure out things, India could play a role as a mediator, of course, along with other countries, like-minded countries. It could be Russia, China, it could be Brazil, it could be BRIC, it could be SCO. Some multilateral forum can just chip in and try hard to, bring both sides closer to some kind of ceasefire to begin with. Then the negotiation could take off. There's a possibility, or that kind of efforts may be involved. The European Union, for that matter, basically like-minded countries can come together to try hard to bring out a ceasefire to begin with. And I don't know how effective these efforts would be, but nevertheless, India is one of the few countries which has that kind of credential and acceptability on both sides to begin that initiative. So now it does, the better for us.
Dr. Mohapatra, also I want to understand from you about the nuclear sites that have been obliterated. But before that, I'll just go across to this breaking news coming. It's a reaction from the Israeli Defense Forces that is coming in. The Israeli Defense Forces say, and I quote, the Air Force and Navy intercepted approximately 30 unmanned aerial vehicles launched towards Israeli territory overnight. And since the beginning of Operation Kalavi, The Air Force and Navy have intercepted more than 500 unmanned aerial vehicles launched from Iran towards the Israeli territory. At the same time, the Air Force continues to destroy dozens of unmanned aerial vehicles across Iran, unquote. So that's IDF saying it has intercepted 30 drones, and more than 500 Iranian drones have been downed in total. So that's the breaking news we have. And in fact, Dr. Mohapatra, I want to understand from you that talking about the nuke sites. Now, United States says that the Iranian nuclear sites have been obliterated. What do you feel is next? What is the long-term impact on the Iranian nuclear program after the US strikes?
I don't think, you say obliterated, some media reports suggest, the damage has been quite limited. So I don't know. See, both sides are still in the process of assessing its impact. Okay, both the Iranian side, the American side, unless we know for sure that there has been substantial, destruction of or dismantling, of the nuke sites. So we cannot take it for granted, because the way that the nuke sites have been located, and but regardless of that, the very fact that America ultimately decided to undertake this operation basically involved the risk of a wider conflict. And that's our concern. As you very rightly mentioned at the very outset, so the Iranian foreign minister will be visiting and meeting the Russian President Putin, and look at the statement coming from Beijing for the matter. So basically it increases the possibility of their involvement. But as I mentioned to you, the direct involvement in any kind of confrontation, to me at least, seems unlikely in near future. So at later stage, it may happen. So I'm not completely ruling it out, but definitely in immediate aftermath of this, I don't see their direct involvement in this confrontation. But the only problem here is, if the conflict prolongs, it's going to affect the Arab countries in its vicinity. For example, the Iranian decide to attack the American bases, which are largely located in Arab countries and the Sunni majority countries. That could be, that is a risk of the expansion of these kind of conflict, the widening of the conflict in the region. That's one. And number two, the displacement of the people, as it happened in the case of the Syrian civil war. So that could be another humanitarian crisis in the region. Number two. Number three, the way things are happening to Israel after this smaller country encircled by the enemies, and it alone is embroiled in a conflict with Iran, and it has already suffered so much of attack. And look at it's the concentration of the attack on the Haifa port. Now the ships cannot actually sail through. Airspace is closed. So entire conflict in a way has taken a huge toll on the Israeli economy. So what I'm saying here is ultimately it is Israel which is likely to suffer the most, or suffer the whiplash, and longer this conflict prolong. And so in the best interest of both sides, there is a diplomatic initiative by the like-minded countries, including India. I think better for the region, better for the two countries as well. But nevertheless, I still reiterate what I said before. There is a possibility of a reaction within Iran, because theoretically speaking, the attack and onslaught on the regime has been a huge blow to the ideological basis of the post-1979 regime. So It will take years to consolidate itself.
Yes.
Because don't forget that there have been periodic outbursts of protest inside Iran against the regime by largely educated the youth, Iranian youth, who happen to product of university colleges. Even in 2019, in the wake of the rise in the fuel price, there was a kind of widespread protest by the workers where the slogan was "No to Lebanon, no to Syria, and our life for Iran."
Yes, Dr. Mohapatra, I'll just...
So I see the possibility.
Right. Dr. Mohapatra, I will just come back to you.